She has already set the all-time single season record for turnovers.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about bullies, we can talk about every time Caitlin has the ball, she pushes off.
Aaliyah Boston, her teammate, is the only other person under 24
for other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or...
Remember when Sheryl Swoopes was called a Caitlin Clark hater? Well, now there's leaked audio of Swoopes praising Clark. What made her change her tune? And why is Nick Wright getting involved? Take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you enjoy the videos without subscribing. It's completely free for you, but it makes a big difference for us. Have you clicked that subscribe button? Awesome. We really appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the video. Let's talk about Sheryl Swoopes for a second. This woman is a legend in women's basketball. She's a Hall of Famer, and when she talks, people listen, but recently, she got into hot water for saying some stuff about Caitlin Clark that didn't sit well with fans. Everyone thought she was hating on the rising star. But you know what's crazy? We've got this leaked audio that's gonna blow your mind. In it, Swoopes is actually saying nice things about Clark. I know, right? It's like everything we thought we knew just got flipped upside down. So what's really going on here? Why did Swoopes suddenly start praising Clark? And how does Nick Wright fit into all this? Trust me, you're gonna want to stick around for this one. It's about to get wild. You think Swoopes had a change of heart? Think again. Her words paint a different picture. One where even legends feel the heat. What made this Hall of Famer feel backed into a corner? And why does it matter for the future of women's basketball? Let's talk about this Twitter Spaces discussion where Swoopes spoke up. She was there to clear the air about being called a Caitlin Clark hater. But what she said, it's gonna blow your mind. Swoopes straight up admitted she felt forced to praise Clark. Can you believe that? A legend in women's basketball feeling pressured to say nice things about a rising star. That's wild. Here's what Swoopes actually said.
She has already set the all-time single season record for turnovers.
For other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them. But you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old.
But from an offensive perspective, I actually think she's been better.
I think Caitlin Clark is a hell of a basketball player. Now, that's a far cry from what people thought she was saying before. But here's the thing. It's not just about what she said, it's about why she said it. This whole situation shines a light on some crazy stuff happening in women's basketball right now. We're talking about media pressure, player recognition, and how former players are expected to constantly hype up the new generation. Swoopes even said, "It doesn't really matter what I say." That's heavy. It shows just how tough it is to navigate public opinion, especially when you're a big name in the sport. But let's think about this for a second. Why should Swoopes, or any former player, feel like they have to praise someone just because everyone else is? Isn't it okay to have different opinions in sports? This isn't just about Swoopes and Clark, it's about the whole landscape of women's basketball. It's about how we talk about players, how we compare them, and how much pressure we put on everyone to agree all the time. And you know what's really interesting? This situation highlights the tension between celebrating individual talent and acknowledging that there are a lot of great players out there. It's not just about one star, it's about the whole league. But here's the thing, Swoopes didn't stop at just praising Clark. She had more to say, and trust me, it's gonna make you think. This story is far from over, and the next part, it's gonna shake things up even more. Think Swoopes is just another Clark fan? Think again. Her next words shattered expectations and opened up a whole new debate. What if I told you Clark wasn't the only player on Swoopes' mind? Swoopes didn't just stop at praising Clark. She went further, and what she said next is causing a stir in the women's basketball world. Swoopes emphasized the importance of recognizing multiple players, not just the current media darling. She specifically gave shout-outs to Angel Reese and Aaliyah Boston. That's right, Swoopes is spreading the love, and it's got people talking. But here's where it gets really interesting. Swoopes didn't back down from her stance. She straight up said, "I'm not going to stop praising other players and giving other players credit and their due because people don't like it." Boom. That's Swoopes standing her ground, making it clear that her commentary isn't just about one player.
Aaliyah Boston, her teammate, is the only other person under 24, and the only other person under 24 averaging more than, I want to make sure I get this right. So then you go to the assists where she's first.
Right.
Now, you might be thinking, wait, isn't this disrespecting Clark? Not at all. Swoopes made it clear that she thinks Clark is amazing, but she's also saying, hey, let's not forget about all the other incredible talent out there. It's like she's trying to widen the spotlight, you know? This isn't just about Swoopes and her opinions. It's bigger than that. It's about how we talk about women's basketball as a whole. Are we focusing too much on one or two stars? Are we missing out on celebrating other great players? These are the questions Swoopes is making us ask. Swoopes even mentioned Rhea Jackson, saying we should be talking about her more. It's like she's challenging us to look beyond the headlines and really appreciate the depth of talent in women's basketball. You know what's crazy? This whole situation is shining a light on something that's been bubbling under the surface for a while. It's about how we recognize talent, how we compare players, and how we build up the sport. Swoopes isn't just talking about players, she's talking about the future of women's basketball. But just when you think this story couldn't get any crazier, enter Nick Wright. And let me tell you, he's not holding back. Wright's take on this whole situation, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire that was already burning pretty hot. Nick Wright just dropped a bomb on his podcast about the Rookie of the Year debate. And let me tell you, he's not playing nice. Wright's take on this whole situation, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire that was already burning pretty hot. You thought Swoopes' comments were controversial? Wait till you hear what Wright had to say. He's not just picking sides in the Clark versus Reese debate. He's saying there shouldn't even be a debate at all. Yeah, you heard that right. Wright's stance is clear. Caitlin Clark should be the unanimous choice for Rookie of the Year. He's not just suggesting it, he's practically shouting it from the rooftops. According to Wright, Clark's performance isn't just good, it's historically significant. That's some serious praise right there. But here's where it gets really interesting. Wright's comments aren't just about Clark's skills on the court. He's making a bigger statement about how we recognize talent in women's basketball. By saying the race isn't even close, he's essentially telling everyone to sit down and recognize greatness when they see it. Now, you might be thinking, isn't this exactly what Swoopes was talking about? And you'd be right. We've got Swoopes saying we need to recognize multiple players. And then Wright comes in saying it's all about Clark. It's like they're having two completely different conversations about the same sport. This whole situation is shining a spotlight on some big questions in women's basketball. How do we balance recognizing individual talent with celebrating the depth of skill across the league? Is it fair to declare a Rookie of the Year before the season's even started? And what does all this hype around one player mean for the rest of the league? Wright's comments are definitely stirring the pot.
She leads the WNBA in assists. She is, 15th in points.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about bullies, we can talk about every time Caitlin has the ball, she pushes off.
And the other element of it is, let me tell you the ages. She's 22.
If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player said.
Some fans are cheering him on, agreeing that Clark's talent is undeniable. Others are pushing back, saying it's too early to make such bold claims. And then there's a whole group in the middle, wondering if all this debate is actually good for the sport. Think about it. On one hand, all this talk is getting people excited about women's basketball. It's creating buzz, getting more eyes on the game. But on the other hand, is it overshadowing other great players and storylines? Are we so focused on this one debate that we're missing out on other amazing things happening in the league? And let's not forget about the pressure this puts on Clark herself. Imagine being called the unanimous Rookie of the Year before you've even played your first professional game. That's a lot of expectations to live up to. So we've got Swoopes praising Clark, but also asking for recognition of other players, and Wright saying it's no contest. But here's the real question. What does this mean for women's basketball as a whole? Are we entering a new era where individual stars dominate the conversation? Or is this just a temporary buzz that'll settle down once the season gets going? Alright, let's break this down. We've got Swoopes feeling forced to praise Clark, but also pushing for recognition of other players. Then Wright jumps in, saying Clark's the clear Rookie of the Year. It's like a tug-of-war over who gets the spotlight in women's basketball. This whole situation is shining a light on some big issues in the sport. We're talking about media pressure, how we recognize talent, and the impact of rising stars. It's got everyone asking questions about how we talk about women's basketball and who gets the attention. But here's the real question. Is all this drama actually good for the sport? Or is it taking away from the incredible performances we're seeing on the court? Are we so caught up in the debate that we're missing out on the game itself? What do you think?